The Celtics aren't sniffing the playoffs. They're not getting in. No way.
What?
Number 8, I have the Indiana Pacers. I just think that they have too much depth still. Number 7, the Miami Heat. They are a locked in playoff team almost every year.
This Miami Heat versus Boston Celtic argument is not something I was expecting to come on this podcast and have to do. The Miami Heat had a losing record last season. You add Norman Powell to that roster where I don't know where Andrew Wiggins fits in this. They've been trying to trade him for months on end.
He's a 3. Tyler Hero's going to be the point guard.
Tyler Hero as a point guard with Bam Adebayo, to me, I would rather have Derek White and Jaylen Brown. Bam Adebayo, we can tiptoe around it, but what is true is he took a minor step back last year.
Would you rather have Tyler Hero, Norman Powell, Bam Adebayo, and Andrew Wiggins?
I don't think Wiggins is going to be on the roster.
But he is. So right now we have to assume he is on the roster. Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, and Anthony Simons.
We'll see what happens with Simons. I mean, this
He's
is
off the bench apparently.
This is an unfinished conversation, but I think Boston and the culture they have and the guys that they have re-signed, they still have guys with experience. Miami, I haven't seen them do shit since Jimmy Butler has left. And when you talk about the back end of the season, they went on I think a double-digit losing streak after he left. Tyler Hero, yes, was an all-star, but I don't see him running point guard at some highly efficient role either.
He ran point guard last year. He was an all-star.
And what did it amount to? A losing record.
But he was an all-star last year, so he clearly was a good point guard last year.
For sure. He was an all-star. You want to talk about back-end Eastern Conference all-stars, we can talk about the West argument. If some of those Western Conference guys who didn't make the all-star team were in the East, I think they would have made it over Tyler Hero.
Like who?
Like Ja Morant.
Okay. Who's the Celtics starting power forward and center?
We shall see. Chris Boucher?
Know that.
Chris Boucher,
Neemias Queta, Luka Garza, what are we doing here? They don't have a front court. They literally don't have a front court. They don't. And Jaylen Brown, Andrew Wiggins, put them on him. That's locks for the game.
Stop.
Tyler Hero was better than Payne Pritchard or Anthony Simons, and he's a better player than Derek White too.
One guy's a $300 million player and the other isn't. That's what it comes down to.
Okay, because, he got paid. Sure, I get it. But no, I think the Miami Heat last year, they didn't play well with Jimmy Butler, but I also think that for the majority of the season, Jimmy Butler dragged that team down. Terrible energy for the year. I think
the losing happened after he left. So how does that compute?
But he was also playing, and he just wasn't trying. He just was. He clearly the body language was non-existent. He looked like he didn't want to be there, which he didn't want to be there. But no. I think that with the full off season,
team's ass.
They'll be better. And if they had the same team as last year, okay, maybe I'm thinking about this more. But the fact that they got Norman Powell, who was a borderline all-star in the Western Conference, who without Kawhi Leonard was averaging 22 to 23 points per game, and you bring a much-needed offensive spark to Miami, who they already have an elite defense. Yeah, I think if you get better offensively, which they will be offensively, and the defense stays elite, yeah, this team to me feels like a playoff team. It feels like what they've been the last couple of years, which is they're always hovering around the play-in.
I understand the Norman Powell argument. I think if let's say they get what they want, they trade Andrew Wiggins. If you replace Andrew Wiggins with Norman Powell, I don't know how much better I feel about that team, because a massive chunk of the losing happened after Jimmy was not there, after his distraction was not there.
But
that's when a lot of the losing happened. And oh, by the way, Terry Rozier, one of the worst NBA trades in recent memory, is still on that roster as well.
Yeah, but I think that's mitigated with Davion Mitchell ascending for them.
Okay, we shall see. He may have to start for them if the Tyler Hero point guard thing doesn't work out. Let's go to 5 and 6. I have Milwaukee at 6. No real depth outside of Giannis, obviously, but he's good enough to get you a top 6 seed in this version of the Eastern Conference. At number 5 is where I have the Atlanta Hawks. I'm high on Atlanta, but I don't trust KP to stay healthy enough for them to be a top 4 seed in the East. And I keep asking myself the same question. Is nobody ever going to talk about the severe condition he had in last year's NBA playoffs that kept him out of series, that when he did play, he didn't look like the same guy? It was very strange. And I don't know if he still has it, doesn't have it. I'd love to have some type of information on that. But because of his health and whatever that condition may or may not entail, I just can't trust them yet as a top 4 seed in the East. But I have them squarely at 5.
I have the Bucks at 6 purely because of Giannis. That's it. Number 5, I have the Pistons. I like what they did in the offseason, getting Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert. I think that they got more reliable veterans in there to replace Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. and also Dennis Schroeder, who I think Marcus Sasser's ready to take on that role. So I think it was fine losing him. And the Pistons have some good internal development. I'm ready to be wrong on the Pistons being at 5. I think that the Pistons have a real shot to be better than Atlanta and to be better than Orlando. I think that's how good they are. Cade Cunningham, I think, is the best player amongst all the teams I just mentioned. And Asor Thompson should keep getting better. We praise Amen Thompson for all this potential he has, which he does have. And I feel like Asor Thompson gets none of that hype when they have different skill sets, but they have similar athletic abilities. And Asor Thompson's already one of the best defenders on the planet. He's already great in transition. If he can also improve that jump shot, I mean, this becomes real. And then the Jaden Ivey edition, where before he got hurt, I mean, he was 40% from 3. He's playmaking at a high level. He's like 18, 5, and 5. Jalen Duren continue to get better. Like, I think that the Pistons have a real chance to shock people, and they feel like one of those sleeping giants in the East that nobody's really talking about because of the off seasons that the Magic and the Hawks have had. But the Pistons have a chance to be better than both of those teams.
I agree with you. That's why I have Detroit at 4. You said you want a reason to move Detroit up. I'll give you 2 of them. I would take Cade Cunningham over Trae Young right now. I would take Azar Thompson over Jalen Johnson right now. I expect Cade to take another leap this year, bring his team in the top 4. They were in the top 6 last year. I think it's another leap for Detroit this season. At number 3, I have the Orlando Magic. Bane adds the number 1 missing skill on that team, and it was shooting. Tyus Jones fills the second biggest problem on that team, and it was ball handling. They take a massive leap because of that. And those 2 things combined with the fact that their schedule will be a lot easier because they're in the Eastern Conference. I think it's a pencil in for a top 3 seed for the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, I agree with you. Except for the Hawks point, I guess I'm more optimistic on them. Mm-hmm. Number 4, I have the Magic. I think Desmond Bane was a much needed addition, and I think they have a lot of star power, but they also have that injury risk that Atlanta has. Franz Wagner got hurt last year at a point in the season. Paolo Banchero got hurt. Jalen Suggs continues to deal with injuries. So they aren't the most durable team. I still question their starting center, Wendell Carter Jr. They have good depth. I also don't know if Desmond Bane is enough to fix the spacing problems. This was the 30th ranked three-point shooting team in the NBA. Desmond Bane will improve that. But does that jump from 32nd to 10th or 15th? I don't know. I think it could jump from 32nd to like 22nd. I think that could be the jump, which would be good. But KCP shot well from 3 after January of 2025, and they still were terrible shooting the ball overall. So I think Desmond Bane adds a much-needed skill set to the team. There's no doubt about it. But I think there's more spacing problems, right? With Paolo, with Franz. There's spacing problems with them. There's spacing problems with Jalen Suggs. There's spacing problems with Wendell Carter Jr. So I think basically outside of Desmond Bane, nobody on this roster can really shoot.
I think the shooting problem will take a massive leap, and it's not just because of Desmond Bane. Tyus Jones shot 41% from 3 last year, too. I'm not going to sit here and act like he's going to play 35 minutes a night, but with those 2 guys on the floor with Paolo and Franz, I think it will definitely take a leap, and they'll be a mid-level 3-point shooting team. I think the bigger problem to me, and the reason I don't have them in the top 2, is because of if you have to have Tyus and Desmond Bane out there for shooting purposes, defensively, that's a problem. I witnessed that here in Memphis. I think those 2 guys are both smaller guards, and defensively, they will get targeted. Yes, you have Paolo. Yes, you have Wendell Carter behind them, but I think that's the bigger problem and why I don't have them in the top 2. Shooting, I think, will be a mid-tier team with that.
I had the Hawks at 3. Porzingis' issue could be much more serious than we all are anticipating.
Yeah.
And if it is, and he's just a bad player now, then it changes things. But I'm kind of willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And even expecting him to miss like 30 games, I think that he can do enough for the Hawks to be one of the better teams in the East. Alexander Walker is a good addition for them. Dyson Daniels continuing to improve. Risa Shea continuing to improve. Hopefully, Jalen Johnson can be healthier for the full season. And then Onyeka finally is able to be the starting five. So I really like Atlanta this year. I think before they had all their injuries last season, I thought they were going to be a really frisky threat in the East. So now that they're healthy and they have Porzingis, who I think that's the biggest wild card. I think
Yeah,
they could be the third seed in the East.
the concerning part of it for me too, even if he is healthy, what I saw from Kristaps after all those reports is, to me, it looked like Ben Simmons after he refused the layup. That's the version of Kristaps Porzingis we got. Now, whether that is a long-term thing like it became for Ben Simmons, we shall see. But that's the deep concern why I didn't put them in the top three. I will pump the brakes because they don't ultimately need him to be a top five team in the Eastern Conference. They have a Nneka Okongwu. They have bigs that they can put in there for spots and stuff. But I think for that team to be a top three team, I think Kristaps Porzingis has to be all the way there. My number two team is the Cleveland Cavaliers. I expect them to pick up where they left off, have another great regular season, but I don't think they will have two different 15-game winning streaks like they had last year. I think hopefully this team learns that if you put all of your eggs in one basket in October, November, December, you can eventually run out of gas, and they did in the second round whenever they met the Indiana Pacers. For the New York Knicks, the reason I have them number one and potentially winning 60 games next year is because of Mike Brown and how he reimagines the offense. We've talked about this, that, for a team that already went to the Eastern Conference Finals, Jordan Clarkson will be an upgrade over Cam Payne, Yabusele, upgrade over Precious Achiuwa. The offense could be even better than it was, and I think it will be better than it was. And the defense is a whole nother issue, but in this Eastern Conference, I think it's good enough to be the number one seed.
The Cavaliers are two for me, and the Knicks are number one. This is the first time in my life where I feel like the Knicks are going to be number one in the Eastern Conference. It's never happened before where we've been number one in the East. It's never happened. Closest was 2012, 2013, and we weren't number one. And we got eliminated by the Pacers in the second round. But I like the Knicks a lot this year. I think the depth that we added was needed. And I think Mike Brown's going to play our depth. And I do like the offense that he's going to bring to the team. So I'm excited overall for this year.
I think you should be. I'm excited that you are finally seeing the light whenever it comes to the Knicks, because I think as it started, that second round series was like the peak of Knicks fandom watching, and then Eastern Conference Finals were just so toxic in a way that I cannot imagine for any other fan base. It's like it somehow all turned into a failure because of what happened against the Pacers. That's not true, and hopefully the Knicks are starting to look up and agree with you as well. But Joel, that's all we got. Western Conference, Eastern Conference playoff predictions after the schedule dropped. Can't wait for its conversations to come. We're in the dog days of the off season, but we will keep the content coming. Joel, appreciate you taking the time today, bro.
Thank you for having me on.